Good evening, and welcome to or welcome back to Uka Life. My name is Sarah Slimp, and I know I may be an unfamiliar face for our viewers. I am an American living and working in Kyiv. I moved to Ukraine in the fall of 2023 to work for an NGO here. I am working with Ludmila Namira for, thank you for your grace and for allowing me to be here. I'm here to start a new segment on this channel to discuss interesting topics that relate to American news, updates on the 2024 election, in addition to just what our viewers want to see in relation to Ukraine and American relations. It's really important that America stands with Ukraine, and I am here to discuss some of the important updates that relate to Ukraine and American relationships. So please comment and share suggestions or topics you'd like for us to discuss. And otherwise, today we'll be doing a short segment to discuss Super Tuesday. What does that mean? What does that involve? What will those updates mean for Ukraine and American relations? And in addition, I'll just touch on a topic that will be coming up later this week. So to begin, what is Super Tuesday? Super Tuesday in America is the day in the spring before the fall election where states host the most primary elections. So 16 states yesterday, including states such as California, Texas, Colorado, all hosted the primary elections before the big election this fall. In addition, an American territory, American Samoa, also voted, which is pretty interesting. Now, we have two parties, the Democratic and the Republican Party. And on the Democratic side, the front runner is President Joe Biden. He's running for re-election in 2024. And overall, he did great in the primary election. The one thing to note during the primaries on his side was that there was a large percent of voters in certain states that were uncommitted. What does uncommitted mean? For activists and protesters against the Biden administration response to Israel and how little Palestinian humanitarian aid is being offered, they really want to show the administration that, you need to stand with Palestine and innocent Palestinians who are caught in the midst of this conflict. So in Michigan, for example, that has a large Muslim American population, there was about, I think, 13%, or if we look at votes, 100,000 voters were uncommitted. Now, while this didn't really affect Michigan that much, it's important for Biden to take note of the different states that have these uncommitted voters, because if it's him and former President Donald Trump in the fall, then it could be a difference between 10,000 votes with who wins the election. So these uncommitted voters are very important. And they've been vocal about needing Biden to take instrumental steps to showing them that they hear the American people who are rooting for Palestine, not rooting for Palestine, but that want the genocide in Palestine to stop. And the Biden administration is taking steps. Kamala Harris, for example, has called out for a ceasefire, but the Biden administration and President Biden himself have yet to ask for a ceasefire or declare a ceasefire, which will be interesting to see in the coming weeks, this impact and what will happen. On the Republican side, former President Donald Trump almost swept the primary election against his opponent, Governor Nikki Haley of South Carolina, who today just announced that she will be stepping down from the Republican nomination. She did not get the numbers that she expected, including losing her own state, South Carolina, to former President Donald Trump. But she did win historically in Washington, D.C., which was fantastic because she is the first woman in U.S. history to win the Republican primary. So despite her stepping down, she's made history. And looking at the numbers, D.C. was more so a symbolic win because of this history that she made, but Washington, D.C. has not backed a Republican candidate since we've had the right to vote. I say we because I come from Washington, D.C., but Washington, D.C. only began to vote or participate in the election starting in 1964. Historically, they always back the Democratic nominee. So what does this mean going forward? Obviously, former President Donald Trump does not have a large opponent, so it seems in the coming weeks that he will be able to win all of the delegates that he needs in order to become the Republican nominee, meaning that we will have another show off or face off in the fall between President Biden and former President Trump. This is not the first face off that we're talking about. They also had a face off earlier this week before the primary, where they both went to Texas to discuss immigration. In recent weeks, immigration between the Mexico and Texas border has seen an influx in asylum seekers. We're talking thousands of people crossing the border illegally. And this is very important when it comes to Ukraine aid, because Congress right now is halting on Ukraine aid, and they're discussing a border security deal. Now, while a bipartisan deal was unsuccessful in the House the last couple of weeks, this is one of the focuses of the Republican Party, specifically those who are against Ukraine aid at the moment. They want to focus on the border before they grant aid, I guess, to Ukraine. So former President Trump, when he was down in Texas, he really focused on immigration, but specifically talking about how the Biden administration has been doing poorly, in his words, and why it's important that there needs to be deals done. And he's always been a voice for immigration, but it could be even more extreme coming in the next few weeks leading up to the election as well. And President Biden was more so focused on the bipartisan deals and getting a deal through Congress so that we can go back to supporting aid. So later this week, President Biden will be giving his State of the Union to discuss all types of topics. He does this, all the presidents do this annually. He's sure to talk about Ukraine aid. This will be a very important point for him in the election cycle, because a lot of Americans are worried about his age. He's 81 years old, and we're unsure, or some people are unsure, if he's, suitable, if he's able to serve. What will happen if his health declines? We've seen some moments in the past, but it'll be a very important moment for him to gather more support and to ensure the American voters that he is fit and he is ready to continue for another 4 years. So that's just a recap of Super Tuesday and something to come later this week. Again, I really want to emphasize that I would love to discuss topics from our viewers, to look into, whether it's questions about the political systems, questions about American-Ukrainian relations, or even just questions about American culture. I love to discuss that, and I want your input so that we can build a program that our viewers want to engage in and that, is interesting. So I want to thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you for having me, and have a great rest of your night.